Hello.
Hello.
All right. What do you think of when you hear the name Adolf Hitler? You probably think that's a terrible man, and you're absolutely right. Now that man plays a major role in the history of Germany, yet there are no statues or monuments that honor him in Berlin. Now, why would Berlin honor this man with a statue? It's obvious, right? This man will never be forgotten, even if there were a statue or no statue at all. The debate over the removal of public Confederate statues has always been in discussion amongst African Americans. But this current administration, with this current administration in power, this subject has gained speed, and people from both sides fiercely fight and argue their points of view. Now, I'm not here to promote forgetting its history, but I believe there is a place that these statues can reside in educating people on the history of these individuals. Now, I feel it's important to cover both parties' issues to understand the subject. So, opponents believe removing statues does not actually address the problem, that the time and energy spent on this can be spent on other things, current events that affect African Americans. And that's a viewpoint that I can actually sit down and think about, but there's other viewpoints that are also, they also point out. They also point out statues should be left to preserve history even if it's a shameful period of time. Now let me add this. The majority of the monuments were built in between 1870 and 1930 to honor the Confederacy. So they believe that these statues are here to teach us the wrongdoings of our ancestors. According to Genevieve Carlton, a historian freelance writer, states, taking down the monuments only erases the moments in our nation's history where we came closest to falling apart. Now let's think about that for a second. Do you truly think by removing statues we would forget this painful part of history? Now I understand that the opponents do bring up some valid points to think about, but have they ever considered the pain that comes from this part of history? The Confederacy represents one of the darkest times in history, in which the South went to war for numerous reasons, such as states' rights, but the main reason was to preserve slavery. I.S. Solomon, a writer from the Washington Post, says that opponents believe we're trying to erase history, but that's not the case, obviously. We think we should remember and study their history, but we should not honor them. Many individuals, including the majority of colored people, believe that the statues are symbols of white supremacy. Now, if you remember, like I stated earlier, the majority of these monuments were built between 1870 and 1930. This was an era when there was extreme racial violence. For example, the Jefferson Davis statue in New Orleans that was taken down May 11th of last year was dedicated in 1911 during a whites-only ceremony. If that doesn't hit the spot, Alexander Stephens, the vice president of the Confederacy at the time, stated that the cornerstone of the Confederate States of America rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. So, as you can see, the monuments represent the pain of the past and should be moved elsewhere. After understanding the history and emotions that comes with it, the next question that I ask is, how far do we take this? Now, I'm heavily against ruining or damaging statues or monuments, but I believe there should and can be displayed in museums and other facilities that its sole purpose is to educate its history. I also believe that it's wrong to disturb Confederate cemeteries or facilities that commemorate the dead. It's important to understand that the government should not abolish the use of Confederate symbols by private organizations. These individuals still have rights to freedom as others do with other beliefs and views. So the state should not endorse or prosecute them. The events that happened in Charlottesville, to the damaged statues in the southern states, shows that it's very clear that for several generations these monuments bring up an emotion that can only be understood if you take a step back and realize the true meaning of the Confederacy. Those who gathered in the name of bigotry and hate should not be honored in the government establishments. Americans of all color and background should stand together and put our foot down to help our country move forward in a direction that we all can agree that the Confederate history should be remembered, but should not be honored.